Alrighty, here we go, part two. We're gonna go ahead and finish up this flint striker. I just threw it back in the fire. I got my main cameraman here, Louie, doing this on that end, so we'll get her heated up here. Again, as you get smaller and smaller with your work, you gotta be more careful with your heat. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this out here and keep dropping this out. Back in the fire. Okay, the real trick about these things, a couple hundred years ago, everybody had a flint striker. Every household had them, every fireplace mantle. It wasn't the actual hammering out of the flint striker that was difficult. It was actually creating the high carbon steel. Especially when all forges, a couple hundred years ago, all here at least in North America, were mainly all fired with charcoal from burning wood into charcoal. They weren't fired with coal. It wasn't until coal was discovered that you could actually put more carbon into iron quicker. And one thing you try never to do is actually strike your anvil with your hammer. Any imperfections on your anvil are actually going to transfer to your work. Conversely, you don't really want to use your forging hammers to like be a center punch driver because that hardened center punch may actually damage the face of your hammer. You just got to be careful about that. Now, if you can see here that this side here is drawn out substantially longer than the other side. Now, I'm just simply going to draw this side out, and that's when I'll be able to roll them back in on themselves. So now I'm just going to start working the other end of this. The other thing that a lot of times they notice that the blacksmith actually, he strikes his work, he's striking his work, and then he'll purposely miss. Well, what happens is that miss is actually beneficial. You notice I'm not hitting the anvil, I'm just letting the hammer bounce. And if you notice how that hammer bounces, what that allows me to do is during that bounce, I can re-grip. Because when I actually strike this, I'm loosening my grip. If not, you're going to blow out your elbow, tennis elbow basically, if you let that shock travel through. So when I'm hitting, the moment it hits, I kind of release my grip so that shock doesn't transfer up through my elbow. Trick an old blacksmith taught me, and that's why he's an old blacksmith. Okay, we're about to get her down there where we want her. As far as size and length and everything you can see, I got a little bit more. I'm going to go back to the other one just a little bit more. Draw it out just a tad bit more. Now, if you went back to blacksmith shops, 150 years ago or whatever, the blacksmith would be the guy that would have the knowledge, and he would have his apprentices, and they would be what's called strikers. And when they work large pieces, you might have 4 people with hammers, 2, 3, 4 people striking an object so they can take advantage of that heat. A couple more heats here and we'll be ready to do some more different things other than hammer. Okay, what I like to do at this point right here is we've drawn it down. Now, the unique thing about these old files is if I keep drawing this out to a needle point like I could with some low carbon steel, I can just bring it out to a needle. But with this here, it seems to feather. It wants to feather and split apart on the end. So what I'll do is I'll take and touch this end up with the grinder here, just like this. And all I'm doing is I'm just bringing her to a point like this. Just like that. And you can see that's almost to a needle point, and that'll just kind of keep it from feathering. Now I'm going to do the same on the other end here. And that it is literally down to a needle point right now. And it's still very hot. It doesn't look hot, but if you look right here, you can see it'll just burn that wood. So it's still very hot, but now you can see it down to a if you look up against there, to a fine needle point. But I'm going to take this now, and I'm actually going to curl it towards this self this way. And then when I bend it back this way, that curl will be ornamental up here on the top, and you'll see that. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now this is where you really got to be careful when you're heat, because you can just burn that tiny tip off there so easily. You just really got to kind of watch your fire. Okay, right here, we pull her in. Right here, I'm just going to curve it over the edge of the anvil. Just get my curve started, then I'm going to draw it back with me this way, just like that. And you can see that tiny little hook right there. Okay. And we'll do the other end. And again, there's all different styles or designs of flint strikers. Some of them were hooked like this. Some of them were just straight. Doesn't really matter. In those days, the purpose of it was to actually start a fire. Not too many people, I suppose, care what color their cigarette lighter is or what have you, but in those days, they probably didn't put too much flavor on or desire on style. Okay, now we've got that one curved back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and heat this again. I'm going to put it in my vise, and then I'm going to twist it. So we'll show that right now. Again, small work, loses its heat fast, but it does heat up quickly. We put it right in this vise, right here, and then we're going to put a full twist in it. The next one, I'll have Louie come over and get a close-up of that twist happening. All right, Louie, come over here so you get right down on that vise when I get ready to twist her. Alrighty, put her in there. We're going to pinch that little hook. Then I'm going to go right here and I'm going to twist. And you see that iron twisted. Especially with high carbon steel, if that gets cold and I try to twist it cold or cooled down, that twist will snap. It'll snap right off right there. I guess I should have paid attention to Miss Bannister's science class about high carbon steel versus low carbon steel. Not that she ever taught that class, but I don't know if I paid attention in there. So now we're going to put a whole heat on it. We're going to try to bend those arms into some back around on themselves. Now at this point, I got the little tips out of the main portion of the heat, and I'm heating up the base of it. So if you look down in here, Louie, come over here and look down in there. So I've got it down inside, and you can see the base of that heat. I've got the tips of it here and over here, but I've got the primary source of heat going right towards the center of the actual flint striker at this point. I'm going to pull her out, and now I can come over here, and we can start bending her around right here, like so. And you can see it drawing back on itself. I'm bending it just around on itself, like so. Just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat the other side the same way. And typically, I grab one side of it, but the tongs suck the heat out of it. So now we'll get this other side. Nice and slow. If you crank the bellows too fast, if you crank this too fast, you'll actually blow the heat past your work. So you just want to go nice and slow so that you're getting combustion and you're not blowing all your heat past your work. Now we come up here again. Come over here. And we're going to pull her around just like so. And we can take her on the anvil at this point, and I can pretty much work the rest of it with the anvil. So, right there, like that, we'll go back into the fire. Now I'm heating up the base of it again. Nice and slow, steady flow with the air. Gonna pull her back. Now Now what I like to do right here, I'm kind of getting this V here. I want it more rounded, so I'm going to heat it again. Then I'm going to put it over this right here, or I'll put it over another shaft there to reform that roundness. But I'm going to put it back in the fire just to make it a little bit more symmetrical. Okay, right here. Okay, we'll get the other side. Again, with small stuff, a lot of heats, a lot of reheats. Sometimes very little hammering done between losing your heat. But with high carbon, you'll snap it right off if it gets cold and you try to move it. Okay, we're going to do one more heat. Bring this piece down just a little bit to meet up with that one, and then we'll be ready to actually start. I'll put my trademark in it, or maker's mark, and then we'll be able to start quenching it then. This will be the final heat there. Okay. And we'll leave her like that. I'm going to dress her up just a little bit before I put her back in the fire to get her heated up for that. I got to stamp my maker's mark in it. Basically, for my maker's mark, I made a small anvil. I filed it out of this tool steel, and then I'll put that anvil in there, and then I just got a couple stamps for my initials. And then that way maybe someday it'll be worth something. I doubt it. Okay. We're getting ready for that. Okay, let's get her hot. Long tongs. Okay. Set her on the anvil right there. Gonna put that maker's mark right there. Good. Got a good one. Now we'll just put my initials in there. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to pull it back. Believe it or not, when I embossed that little anvil, it put a little curve in it. So now I got to flatten it back out. We don't want that little curve in there. Okay, there it is. Now we're ready to put her in one last heat. We'll get her up to quenching, and then I'm going to quench it. Now there's all kinds of science behind quenching. I tried a lot of different things, but what I found works really well is the well water coming off the mountain here. I don't know what's in it. Probably has I have had it tested, but I mean, it's got a lot of sulfur content. But I set it in my slack tub, and Louie will take a picture of that slack tub here. And I don't know, I had one guy who's really smart tell me that because it lays in that slack tub, it deoxygenates itself. But I bring it up to a non-magnetic heat, and then I quench it. But I only quench the running edge of it initially, and then I slowly let it cool off the rest of the way. Because if those little arms were as brittle as the face of it, if you dropped it, it might break. So we'll bring it up to that temperature right here. You can see right here, right now, and I grab a magnet, but as you can see right here, when you get it that hot, that magnet right there, when you get it that hot, it's non-magnetic because the molecules are moving around so fast that they can't attract a magnet. So that's where you want to bring it up to, is really a non-magnetic heat. I pretty much got it down with this file still by color, and there's our color. So now I'm just going to bring it over. I'm going to drop her right into the water, and I'm going to move it. But notice I'm not submerging it all the way. Just that running edge, I want to super harden. And that way the flint actually slices off a piece of that steel, and it slices it off with such velocity that the actual piece of steel it sliced off ignites. So now we've got it, and I look, and I'm just waiting on the color to go out of the arms. And once the color goes out of the arms, and I've just noticed, you want to keep moving it around, because believe it or not, if you just stick it and hold it in one place, you boil the water around it and it don't chill as well. And then I just go ahead and chill it the rest of the way. Now I've got it to where I can handle it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to come over to the grinder, and we're just going to actually clean this up. And then I'll wire brush it, and then we'll have a flint striker. So let's get over to the grinder. Now, one of the ways you can tell immediately if it's going to throw a spark is if you look on the grinding wheel right here, and you see that spark fly off, and that spark flies off, and then actually starburst at the end, you know you got good flint steel. So right here, you'll see them sparks fly off, and you'll see them bursting out here. Where if I just take a piece of mild steel, and I'll show you. If I just take a piece of mild steel, this is just a piece of mild steel, you notice you don't have the spark really bursting. They're just kind of flying off. And I'm actually, you can hear how hard I'm grinding to try to actually get it to go. But this here, you see them sparks really fly off. Okay. Now, we've got that good. I'll have to wire brush it. And simply we'll see how to get her wire brushed real good. And that's really all we need to do. Now I'm going to test it, and I got a piece of flint here, so I'll test it on this piece of flint. And this is a pretty dull piece of flint right here. It's a small piece, but we'll see if she throws a spark. And we're ready. I think I could build a fire with that one all day long. There it is, right there. So that's all we got. So we basically, probably about an hour. I probably could have moved a little bit faster without videoing and stopping. But basically we took a file, repurposed it because of the high carbon steel in it, and then we actually forged it into a flint striker. This would be something that would go in the kits. You would take this, you'd get your char cloth, carry your flint. This is something you can build a fire with, and the way they did a couple hundred years ago. And I think it's kind of a unique thing to do. I do make a lot of these. I sell them. I also give them as gifts. I'm a member of the American Mountain Men Association, and this is the only way we're allowed to start a fire. We could use a bow and drill and start a fire that way, but this is traditional, what was used for fire starting for hundreds of years. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Put some comments in there. I'll put it out there probably in the public domain after all my friends comment on it. And we'll see you down the road. Thanks, Louie, for your help. Say goodbye to everybody, Louie.
Bye.
All right. We'll see you.